Another day, another crossover. I'm not sure if the world needs one, but Hyundai certainly wants one. After all, they are India's second largest car maker and they only have one hot-selling crossover in a market that absolutely loves this body style, and therefore the Hyundai Venue. But is it just another crossover? Certainly not. It is not a hatchback with bolt-on cladding or a chopped-off, cut-short variant of something else. This is not a Me Too product either, and does not try to replicate the formula put together by its competition. The design is quite remarkable and not as polarizing as one would have thought with that headlamp in the bumper configuration. It takes shape from the Carlino concept that was shown in 2014, but the end result is quite pleasing to the eye compared to that boxy concept. If I was buying, I would buy it in this denim blue, but spec it with a white roof. The Venue is a sub 4 meter offering. It is about 10 mm longer than the i20, though about 50 mm shorter in its wheelbase. At 1605 mm, it's not all that taller than the i20 Active either. And yet it appears more like a scaled-down Creta than a jacked-up hatchback. And that is thanks to its upright stance, which comes courtesy of its steeply raked windshields, the grille. Then you also have the barbed wire detailing for the grille and for the bumpers, the chunky character lines, the flared wheel arches. They all add more brawn and bulk. If you ask me, however, I would have liked one size larger on the wheels, because that would fill up the wheel wells much better. The overall detailing, like the dark chrome on the grille or the complex pattern for the tail lights, the diamond cut design of the wheels, or even the sheer quality of the paintwork, adds sophistication to the Venue's form and design. That sophistication carries over to the cabin as well. The layout, the fit and finish, it shouts quality. The plastics, they are still the scratchy type. I would have liked soft touch plastics, but that's not a deal breaker in any sense. And finally, Hyundai gives you better options than just a black and beige combination. Now, the color combinations inside the cabin are dependent on what exterior colors you choose. This here is an all black combination. I think it looks quite refreshing. It looks quite different than what Hyundai has given us, but I'm not still entirely content. I would have liked electric blue seat belts to go with my blue and white Creta. Something like what my colleagues enjoy in a green Santro, green seat belts. That is something I would have wanted. There's plenty of other stuff to keep you entertained though, like the new 8-inch infotainment system that claims to be the best in class in terms of its audio quality, ease of use, and features that it offers. And I kind of agree. That infotainment also compensates for the lack of my blue seat belts with a technology called Blue Link. Now that name reminds me of the Fiat Linea. But this technology and this system is a lot smarter and also understands the Indian accent. Now, Hyundai has teamed up with SoundHound to ensure this. As far as I remember, SoundHound was an app that could also bring up Bollywood music if I could simply hum the tune to that app. So I'm sure that it understands the diverse Indian accents. What it also does is, it gives me this little switch here that allows me to have conversations with people, not just people on my phone, but also people I don't know but who are still happy to help. Well, not for random chats, but for easing and helping you in case of a breakdown or worse, an accident. It can also help track down a vehicle in case of theft or even immobilize it remotely. Such features are a part of the new age connected technologies, and the Venue is one of the first to offer them at this particular price point. Hyundai has teamed up with Vodafone to integrate an eSIM into the infotainment for enabling these connected technologies independent of your paired phone. Of course, it also comes at a price, but a 3-year subscription comes for free with the car as of now. Well, I was trying to connect, but unfortunately no one answered. That's just one of the problems. The other problem is all these services of Blue Link are server-based, which means everything is network dependent. You're at the mercy of the network on your phone and on the device itself for you to use any of these services. Some of these should have been based on the instrument itself. But these are not deal breakers and are teething issues instead, which will be addressed and improvised on with time. If anything, these connected technologies are great to have and are the future of infotainment and assistance systems. The cabin also has excellent space management. You get 1-liter bottle holders in all the doors, the tunnel console has adequate space for knickknacks, and there's a parcel shelf in the dashboard and a center armrest with cup holders at the rear. The rear seat also gets its own AC vent, which so far is a feature that's unique to the India spec Venue. quite thoughtful. In terms of the space, it is on par with the other competition that the Venue has, but we will wait for a comparative review to put things into perspective. But to give you a more closer perspective, I am 5 feet 8 and I have a decent knee room, good foot space, headroom is quite good, visibility out of the window is quite good. So for most average Indian sizes and heights, it's going to work quite well. The contouring of the seats, it's pretty flat, so putting in 3 adults at the back is not going to be a problem, but 2 adults and a kid is a more comfortable arrangement for this compact SUV. The Venue gets ISOFIX child seat mounts as a standard fit, along with ABS and front airbags. The top spec trim also secures the cabin with side and curtain airbags as well. The top trim and all the automatic variants also get hill assist, traction and stability control. Apart from these features, Hyundai claims that the steel-intensive chassis is ready to comply with the safety regulations of most countries around the world. What India misses out, however, is camera-guided technology like a lane keep assist. Creature comforts that deserve a mention are the wireless charging function for the phone, cruise control, an electric sunroof and a cooled glove box. Hyundai has also added an air purifier in the car and will soon make its way to other Hyundai models as well. On the topic of conditioning the air, the Blue Link also has an option to remotely start the car and pre-cool the cabin. That's the stuff of luxury cars. Currently, it is only possible to do this with your smartphone, but going forward, even Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant would be able to control this function for you. Pretty cool indeed, isn't it? The remote start function is only available with the automatic though. In fact, the packaging of all the Venue's headlining features in typical Hyundai style is top-heavy, meaning majority of the goodies only come in the range-topping variants. And that brings us to the variants on offer. For those seeking practicality, there's a 1.4-litre diesel. For the cost-conscious buyer, there's an entry-level 1.2-litre naturally aspirated petrol engine. And for the urban buyer seeking convenience, there is a 1-litre turbocharged direct injection petrol that comes with a choice of a 6-speed manual or a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic as well. Well, don't cringe at the idea of having a 998cc 3-cylinder motor in a car of this class. And certainly don't ignore it or discount it just the way many did with the Ford EcoSport EcoBoost. This is the new age technology. This is where things are headed. With new emission norms coming in, with better fuel economy requirements as well, this is the way forward. This engine, it is quite refined. There is a bit of pedal vibrations that you feel at idling RPM and at lower revs, but once you move past the 2000 RPM mark, it all smoothens out. This engine also sounds quite refined, and it also sounds quite exciting if you need it to when you rev higher. It also has class-leading power figures, and it's evident when you get your roll on. It drives nicely at city speeds and cruises well on the highway. Thanks to its quick revving nature, overtakes don't really need a lot of planning. On the topic of DCT, well, this is an impressive gearbox, and it's certainly better than anything else that is on offer in this particular category. You have AMTs, you have torque converters, and compared to those, the DCT is far more smoother, it's slick and it's quick. It is a tad bit slow to downshift, but upshifts come nice and quick. If you are on an incline, things can get a little tricky, but then you have the hill start assist, you have a hill hold control that is exclusive to this particular transmission. You also can resort to a manual mode if you have to. Otherwise, this gearbox, very easy to live with. It's going to be very convenient driving this in the city environment, and out on the highway as well, it cruises effortlessly. So overall, I'm quite impressed with this gearbox, and I think it will generate a lot of volumes for Hyundai. In fact, we hear that the 1-litre DCT contributed to almost 35% of the 20,000 bookings that the Venue garnered at launch. That is a huge number, considering the apprehensions that people have had in the past about the reliability of dual-clutch transmissions and the fuel economy of small turbocharged engines. Hyundai is making some tall fuel economy claims for this engine, but we will warrant all those claims, or we will test all those claims once we put this car through a road test. Until then, I think this engine is perfectly suited for urban use, but if you probably stay outside of a big city and you have to commute into work every day, if those commuting distances are quite long, then the diesel could make a lot of sense. If you also end up taking a lot of road trips every year, again, the diesel could make a lot of sense. The Venue has a decently large boot for your road trips, but packs in a 15-inch spare wheel in all the variants. It also has cruise control on the top-end variants. Hyundai is still betting big on diesel. In fact, the diesel engine of the Venue is the only one that is available in all the trims that this car has to offer. It's the same engine that you get in the i20 as well. It's the same engine that you also have in the base variants of the Verna and the Creta. And in this particular car, with its weight and its size, it works quite well. There's a noticeable turbo lag under 2000 RPM, but beyond that, this diesel engine pulls strongly till about 3500 RPM. It's only past this mark that the engine's gravelly note gets annoying. Otherwise, it's quite muted for this class of car. The 6-speed manual that it's mated to is slick and has a light operation for its clutch pedal, making it easy to drive in the city as well as on the highway. The brakes are a bit grabby but predictable and therefore need getting used to. The overall visibility is good, and for this size, it gives you a fairly good commanding view of the road. Despite its hatchback-like proportions, it doesn't feel very hatchback-like to drive, especially when you are tackling bends or driving at highway speeds. At highway speed, it tends to feel a little floaty, more so with the diesel variant, and that is because the steering on the diesel variant felt a little too light for my liking, especially at highway speeds. Around bends, with its height, with its ground clearance, it does feel a little too wallowy for my liking. There are better handling cars in this segment, but we'll get to that once we do a comparative review. The turbo petrol, therefore, happens to be the more confidence-inspiring variant around the twisties, but the Venue isn't a very sporty car in terms of its driving dynamics. In fact, the Venue's dynamics and all of its powertrains are pretty laid back, which goes with its intent of being a casual urban runabout or an occasional tourer. In that sense, the Venue does everything well that is expected of it, making it a likable all-rounder. To sum it up, the Venue is a very well thought out product. The short answer on if you should buy one of these is a big yes. And a long answer to that is, well, the Venue, it ticks all the right boxes on what is required to make an inexpensive product. Sub 4 meter length, small fuel efficient engines and component sharing. But at the same time, the Venue also ticks all the right boxes on what the consumers want. And then some. And in doing that, it also proves that an inexpensive product doesn't need to feel like a compromise. It can feel just as desirable as its bigger siblings. So if you ask me, I think this Venue is a good place for you to spend your money on if you're planning to shop in the sub 4 meter space.